Hi guys, this is Stu from Mobile Geeks and we're back with another comparison video. This time we're comparing three phones together in a big kind of, if you like, a face-off of the three main competitors that are just in that space that's just below the full flagship, the full-size 5+ inch devices. Here we got 5-inch or below. So what we have is a compact, a mini, and an S. I'm guessing the S stands for small. Okay, and that's because, well, this is a 5-inch device and it's the LG G3S. The LG G3 is a 5.5-inch device, so this is a smaller version of its older brother. The same goes over here on the HTC. This is the HTC One Mini 2, which is in fact the smaller version of the HTC One M8. This is a 4.5-inch screen. The M8 has a 5-inch screen. Now over here on the Z, this is the Z3 Compact, or the Xperia Z3 Compact I should say, which is the smaller version of the Sony Xperia Z3. This is a 4.6-inch screen compared to the 5 inches that we have on the Z3. Okay, so they're all smaller, but only really, I would say, in the case of the Sony Z3 Compact, are we seeing a phone that tries to maintain its, if you like, its flagship DNA, at least in terms of hardware. What we have with these two guys is that we find that both HTC and LG have actually made some compromises there. So it'll be interesting to look at those. And one of the first places we can look at is the display, of course. All three of these guys are HD 720p displays. Not full HD, not 1080p, and certainly nowhere near Quad HD. As a point of interest, the big brother of the LG G3S, the G3, does use a Quad HD display. So it's interesting to see that the smaller version is it's only half an inch smaller in terms of the screen, but in terms of the screen resolution, it's considerably different at 720p. So we got 4.6, 4.5, and 5 inches. So there's a difference in screen size, but they're all the same resolution. These two guys here on the outside are using straight up LCD with the modern process, which is called IPS, or in-plane switching technology, which means you're getting great viewing angles. It's probably the dominant LCD technology around at the moment. HTC, on the other hand, are relying on Super LCD 2, which is a slightly different technology. Now, in terms of brightness, we've actually got the brightness turned up to the full gamut on all three of these devices. And, well, they're all looking pretty bright. But for me, I think just the brightness of this, I mean, see the way my camera's reacting as I'm getting closer? That's because it's possibly the brightest screen we've ever come across. It's a fantastic screen. If we're gonna compare these screens, I would definitely give it to Sony. This is the best 720p I've ever seen. No doubt about it. The viewing angles are fantastic. It's bright as hell. So yeah, I think if there's one point I would make is that Sony are ahead in terms of the display, just a little bit, although these two other devices also have fantastic looking displays. Now, if we look inside the three of these guys, we'll see a little bit of a difference when it comes to the actual mobile processor that's used. And that's because the Sony Xperia Z3 Compact is using a real flagship system on chip. It's using the Qualcomm Snapdragon 801, backed by 2 GB of RAM. This also includes the Adreno 330 GPU. So what we're seeing here in terms of benchmarks, it's as good as anything. This can compete with the Galaxy S5. It can compete with any other flagship device, including the G3 or even the One M8, the big brother of these guys. But what we find on these guys is, in fact, what we have is the Snapdragon 400, which is a 1.2 gigahertz processor compared to 2.5 over here. So that's a big difference in terms of the sheer clock speed. So it's very much a mid-range processor offering that will give you, yeah, I mean, it's enough performance, but you know, in terms of a real flagship experience and having all that extra horsepower, it's just not there, and the benchmarks prove that conclusively. Once again, if you want to check out those benchmarks, we have comparison videos, and we also have the review that you can check out on our website. Now, as I mentioned, this chap has 2 GB of system memory, or RAM. These guys don't. They have 1 GB of RAM each, which is a difference if you're going to be multitasking and switching from app to app and stuff. It's definitely going to make a difference. I am a fan of the 2 gigahertz. I am a fan of the 801 Qualcomm Snapdragon. So overall, and once again, we've seen Sony pull ahead in terms of display technology. I'm going to give Sony again, they're pulling away for sure. The processor and the combination of RAM and processor here is just top notch. Over here, you're getting something which is very good, but it is not flagship quality. It's nowhere near. All right, let's take a look at design. Now, each of these, let's turn them over, they each have a different approach to design, which is particularly in evidence once you see the 3 of them faced over, turned around like that. Now, LG has one advantage, that it is a removable back cover. You can slip your finger right in here and just pop that back cover right off. And in so doing so, you also get the bonus of a removable battery and the fact that you can change covers. But it is plastic. Sounds like plastic, feels like plastic. Let's be honest, it pretty much looks like plastic. Even though LG have done a fantastic job of trying to hide that fact with a kind of faux aluminium, brushed aluminium finish right here. It's not bad, it looks good. But, come on, this is real steel. This is one chunk of aluminium. This is a unibody chassis design which looks phenomenal. It feels good in the hand. Excuse me. It is a little bit heavier. I mean, that's one of the downsides. You have, this is the heaviest guy. It's 137 grams, 134, 129 on the compact. So, even, yeah, I guess using real steel has that consequence. Now, we're used to seeing Sony use the Gorilla Glass, and this is not Gorilla Glass, although it is tempered glass. And on the back here, we also have plastic. You also have plastic around the edges, although these are aluminium little buttons right here. But it looks and feels great. And the plastic around the edge, it doesn't feel plasticky. It feels slightly rubberized, which is not so bad. So in terms of, I think, you know what though, in terms of design, I am totally in love with HTC. It's a close thing. I like the Sony. I like the LG. But this is where it's at, people. That's one piece of steel. And they made a phone out of it. My God. It's fantastic. One complaint I do have is the button on the top here. You can see that. So if you want to turn the phone on, you're here. I'm more of a fan of this. Although I can, do I like it on the back here? Yep, you know, actually having used a couple of LG devices in recent years, it is easy to get used to this kind of on-off navigation on the back. I mean, it's maybe not for everyone, but it's not a bad idea. Sony has their buttons. Well, you've got they're pretty consistent. That's one thing I like about Sony. They're consistent. HTC, it was different. The M7 was here. The M8 is over here. I mean, come on, guys, just make a design choice, stick with that choice. But over here, Sony have their button just about halfway up. You've got the rocker here, and you have the advantage of a photo snapper right there. So that is also an advantage for Sony. You're getting 16 gigabytes of storage on both of these guys. But interestingly, the LG is only going to give you 8 gigabytes of storage. And the other interesting thing is that according to the specification sheet of this device, it only supports SD cards of up to 64 gigabytes. These guys will give you 128 gig support, we're told. And they also have the extra 16 gigs. So I think there's plenty of advantages there, or at least there are disadvantages over here with the LG. Now let's just quickly move on to cameras. Okay, before we start, Sony is the king of cameras, in my opinion. Samsung's not far behind. Nokia is knocking on the door, but this is a 20.7 megapixel camera with a very strong LED flash right here, and it's one of the best cameras we've ever used. This is the same camera that you're getting on the Xperia Z3. So this is flagship. This is leading. This is as good as anything you're gonna find on a smartphone anywhere, any place, ever in the history of mankind. There you go. I like the camera, can you tell? Now over here, you're getting, instead of a 20 megapixel, you're getting a 13 megapixel, which is decent. It's not a terrible camera, but it's nothing of the class that we're seeing over here. You don't get the same depth perception sensor that you saw on the M8 either. Now, LG is going to give you an 8 megapixel camera, which is significantly smaller than, certainly than less than half of what you're getting with the Sony. But they do have the advantage here in the back of having laser autofocus for the lens, which, yep, certainly helps in low light conditions, and it's pretty quick as well, and you also get LED flash. So it's also not a bad camera. And you know, the whole megapixel thing, oh, come on, who really cares? I mean, as a front-facing camera here in the HTC, you're getting 5 megapixel camera. Here you're getting 1.3 and here 2.2. But, you know, one selfie cam is not that much difference than another selfie cam, in my opinion. I would say overall in terms of cameras, Sony is really, really giving you the best camera experience you're going to get on anything of this size. Okay, let's move on to batteries. Sony are going to give you 2,600 milliamp hour battery. HTC are giving you a 2,110 milliamp hour battery, and the LG is kind of, well, it's closer to the Sony at 2,540 milliamp hour battery. But in our testing, this guy, we have managed to test this with Laptop Magazine battery test, and it scored 8 hours something. Sony, crazy people that they are, they managed to squeeze 16. Now, we didn't run the same test with HTC, but in HTC, it's a similar range to Sony. You're going to get all day, maybe 2 days out of these guys. You're going to get maybe 3 days out of this Sony over here. So battery life, definitely Sony have the edge. They all have some pretty decent, if you like, battery saving modes in there. You have the stamina mode, particularly is impressive here on the Sony as well. Okay, finally, well, not finally, not quite. We're going to look at software, and this is where I think LG really shines. LG have, I think, some of the smartest looking icons, some of the coolest looking wallpapers. I mean, look at the theme we got running here right now. It just looks great. We go into the app drawer. These guys all have app drawers. Dun, 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 dun. So they're not going the Apple route, the iOS route, which is interesting. It's much more closer to regular Android. But I just think, I mean, look at this phone icon, music icon, settings. It's just minimalistic. It's attractive. I think LG are gonna win this one for me. I also quite like the way you can organize the settings according to tabs, and you can also organize it according to a list, and there's lots of stuff in here. It doesn't feel cluttered. It's well organized. You got lots of apps. All three of these guys deserve probably credit actually for not being sucked into giving you bloatware. All three are giving you a fairly well balanced, well, we do have blink feed over here, and we have what's new over here, which is a little bit annoying, but you can get rid of them easily enough. Yeah, very slightly different takes on Android. They're all running KitKat, although the Mini 2 is a little bit older. Actually, and also the LG, they're 4.4.2, only the Sony is the 4.4.4, but I'm sure you won't notice a difference there. It's more to do with styling. And I just think that actually, in terms of menu systems and overall style, I think LG are ahead. That's my overall opinion. Now let's just look at music, music playback. You can see the LG has audio on the back here, a small single little speaker, which sounds loud. It's pretty loud, right? And then over here in the HTC, well, let's do the Sony next. That would seem to make more sense. And we've saved the best to last. Yes, we have. Oh, boo boo. So this is one area where HTC clearly really shine. To give this a very simple kind of conclusion, loud, louder, loudest. And it's not just the loudness, actually. The Sony is also extremely loud. I think the thing about HTC is that it sounds much better than any smartphone you've ever tried. It's a fuller, clearer, bassier sound than any other smartphone on the market. So HTC have cornered it there, for sure. Okay, so let's have a little look at prices right now. Let's start with HTC in the middle. This is the most affordable. This is $450 right now on Amazon. If we move to the LG G3S. This guy is $500. And then we have the Sony Compact, which is $530. You might have to go as high as $550. It depends. But these are just general indicators of price. You've got the Sony would be most expensive, followed by the LG, followed by the HTC. And also, I think that kind of Sony being the most expensive is definitely reflected in the specifications. It's a true flagship in a much smaller device. Whereas both of these guys have cut corners. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But they're not far behind. You won't notice the different processor too much. Not really. The camera, yeah, Sony has it when it comes to the camera, and Sony also has it when it comes to battery life. So if you really care about those things, then you should go for the Sony. But overall, these are three very attractive devices. They're probably the best right now in this size without going beyond 5 inches. But anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this comparison of these three fantastic devices. Please chip in with your comments below, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're a fan of this kind of stuff. So this is Stu from Mobile Geeks taking a look at three of the coolest sub 5-inch smartphones currently on the market. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.